This is Binghamton Now on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
Where news breaks first. News Radio 1290 WNBF.
This is News Radio 1290 WNBF News. Mostly cloudy today, high near 43. Partly cloudy tonight, low around 27. Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 54. A burial service has been held for the dozens of racehorses killed in a fire that tore through a barn at Tioga Downs in Nichols. State police investigators said Thursday morning's blaze in a horse stable was a case of arson. According to a Tioga Downs news release, 30 horses died in the fire. A private burial for the horses was held in what was described as a simple service. The horses were buried together adjacent to where the barn had stood. The racetrack statement said the burial was done with approval from authorities. State police arrested Boyd Fenton of Athens shortly after the fire was reported. He faces felony charges of arson, burglary, criminal mischief, and assault. Edgar Clark sustained second-degree burns at his face after he used a fire extinguisher to try to knock down the flames. 6 of Clark's horses were killed in the blaze. Tioga Downs has announced the racetrack is working to establish a memorial to the horses lost in the fire. The memorial will stand as a lasting tribute to their impact on the harness racing community. The owner of a well-known eatery and event venue north of Binghamton is looking for someone to buy the place. Travis Evans of Glen Aubrey has operated the Airport Inn restaurant in the town of Maine for more than 2 decades. And that while the operations of the restaurant are going very well, he has decided that he'd like to do something different. The restaurant was rebuilt after a fire tore through the old Airport Inn building in January of 2019. The business reopened in a newly constructed facility in April 2020 in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. It initially operated as a takeout restaurant to comply with state restrictions. The Airport Inn business and land located on Airport Road recently were listed for sale with an asking price of $1.9 million. The facility includes a banquet hall and a pavilion. Evans said the business has about 30 employees, but staffing has been a challenge in recent months. While he's hoping to sell the place, Evans said it will continue to be business as usual at the Airport Inn. New York State Governor Kathy Hochul and the New York State Division of Human Rights launched the Hate and Bias Prevention Unit in December of 2022 to help communities combat prejudice and discrimination. The HBPU is chaired by Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado, and the unit's mission is focused around the statewide network of regional councils and a rapid response team. The Division of Human Rights has established 10 regional hate and bias prevention councils representing every region across the state, including the southern tier. The councils are comprised of a network of public and private stakeholders that include community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, law enforcement, government agencies, and other advocacy groups. These broad and diverse partners work together in building connections and local capacity to prevent and respond to hate and bias incidences through community engagement and mobilization. The councils provide a place for community members to share information about trends in different areas of the state, develop innovative policy solutions, organize educational programming, host community events to raise awareness about hate and bias prevention, offer healing circles and community dialogues, partner with schools to address intergroup conflict, participate in conflict resolution, and anti-racism training. Philip Ginter, Executive Director of the Ross Park Zoo in Binghamton, announced openings for a limited number of applicants to join an adventure of a lifetime to Nepal in search of red pandas. The trip to Nepal begins November 3rd, 2024 for 10 days. Those joining the adventure will be accompanied by Ross Park Zoo staff. In light of the 5.6 earthquake in Nepal on November 3rd that left villages devastated, support for the ecotourism industry and its recovery in the country is being seen as even more critical to Nepal's national and local economies, as well as for the conservation of biodiversity in the affected regions. The trip, in partnership with the Red Panda Network, has already been in the planning stages prior to the November 3rd natural disaster. During the expedition, participants will witness the wonders of Nepal, in addition to amazing views of Mount Everest and the beauty of the country's culture. There are only 5 to 7 openings for the excursion, with an estimated cost per person of $5,000 to $6,000. For more information, visit the Ross Park Zoo website. That's a look at news. For updates on local news, weather, sports, and features, open up the WNBF app and online at WNBF.com. This is News Radio 1290 WNBF.
News Radio 1290
I'm Bob Joseph. This is Binghamton Now. And we welcome you. Probably should give the date for historical purposes. Historians who are listening in the future. Today is Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. And as we take to the air, I'm pleased to report that the State of the Union is strong. So there. And you thought we had problems. Nothing insurmountable. 607-772-1290. I encourage you to participate if you have thoughts. This is the Community Dialogue. Hi, welcome to Community Dialogue with your facilitator. My name's Bob. 607-772-1290. Oh, let's take a call. Who might it be? Good morning, WNBF. You're caller number 1. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
I'm John. I'm calling from Binghamton. I'm a consultant to local government.
Well, they certainly appreciate your help.
Last night I was at the Vestal Town work session. The council has a work session, so I went.
And you saw. Tell me about the work that was done.
Well, do you remember when less government was more government? Wasn't that the talk of conservatives and Republicans?
It was just talk. As that hit song from a few decades ago, it was just talk.
Well, music machine aside, let me tell you this. The Vestal taxpayers are going to get clobbered by this, and they're going to get clobbered starting in 30 days. Now, one was expected, one was not. They're going to have 2 new special taxing districts, and the thing about these special taxing districts is they are not under the control of local government. The Secretary of State, the New York Secretary of State, defines these districts, like library districts, etc., as branches of local government. So the one that they had to do something about because they let it go on so long, and Schaefer was there for 18 years, was they had actually a violation of the law. The town was running the fire district, which is not kosher at all. So, and Schaefer seemed last night to be putting himself in line for a seat on the fire district board. What they're going to do is they're going to have a committee that's going to run things for a year until December 2024, when there'll be a slate of candidates up to manage and to administer the new fire district. But the more shocking thing is that the Vestal emergency, is it the Vestal volunteer emergency? I don't know if the word volunteer is in, but one thing that was made clear is that there's only 2 volunteers that run the place. Everybody else is paid, and paid pretty darn good. And they're going to become essentially town employees now. I guess when it was started, they were originally town employees. But a new special taxing district is going to be created. Apparently, this figure 750,000 was cited as potential red ink. It's going to be done within 30 days. It's very interesting because, again, Schaefer ran on the Conservative Party line.
I'm just curious, help me here, because it seems to me that this came up 6 days after the election. Had this been discussed publicly prior to the election on November 7th?
According to Schaefer, no, it wasn't. And according to Schaefer, he says he only found out about it, I guess meaning the deficit, days ago, he said. So whether that was 3 days ago or 10 days ago, I don't know. But these, and there was no talk. It's interesting. Vestal has private trash haulers. And there was never any talk of, no one ever brought up the point, say, well, geez, why don't we encourage a private, because this is a money-making visit. You get $1,200 for, you turn on the extra life support equipment and you get more than that. This is a very expensive ride to these hospitals, and no one mentioned any possibility of a private sector. So, and this is very similar to what occurred in the town of Union on this very issue. And you'd be surprised of the people that participated, and I guess there will be a public hearing in Vestal. The people in the town of Union were onto the scheme. They were onto this of the relationship between the town of Union and that of so-called volunteer ambulance service. Now, you're going to get a call, and what's he talking bad about EMS? These are the first responders. These are that. Doesn't he know? I'm not talking about any of that jazz. That's obvious. What I'm talking about is John Schaefer making moves, pulling stunts, even though he's going to be gone, not to live with them. And he also said that he was the only person that has taken courses in the management of a fire district. So he seemed to be positioning himself.
Well, I mean, look at the institutional knowledge he has about the town. He's been the supervisor for, 12 years?
Yeah.
I believe so. Very few supervisors in Vestal have been in office for that long. I don't know. Maybe somebody was in office longer than that. None. Maybe Joe B. Monk. I don't know for sure. I don't have the Guinness Book of Vestal records, but that's a long time. So. It's a lot of institutional knowledge, John. I say institutional knowledge will set you free.
Well, it's interesting because, the town of Tyre, he brags about Vestal, and Vestal's this and that, and, oh, geez, it's just tremendous. And he seems to indicate Vestal's the number one town. I don't know where he's getting these rankings. But how about the town of Tyre that has zero property taxes? When he does that, and he's not...
Why is that, though? Do they have a casino?
Yeah, it's Del Lago.
Oh, okay. Well, is that why?
If you take the...
But is that why?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why. And
well, then maybe Vestal should get a casino. I don't know.
Well, parts of the town of Tyre are farther away from the casino than Vestal is from Tioga. So it's very, very interesting. But he was as irascible as ever. He said it was glad to see everybody there except, I guess, me. So he continued to bash the incoming insurgents that are elected. So he's going out in the grand style of John Schaefer. But what I'm concerned about, and people better be concerned about it, that he's going to make a bigger mess than he's already left. And he's left a mess. There's no question about it.
All right. Well, we'll stay tuned. And as John Schaefer knows, he's always welcome here on the program. So he may wish to respond. And if he wishes to respond, he knows how to call in, because our lines are the people's lines. All people are welcome to call 607-772-1290. This is Bob Joseph. I call the program Binghamton Now, although some days we could call it Vestal Now, or Endwell Now, or Owego Now, or America Now. Maybe that's what we'll expand. Maybe we'll rebrand America Now to serve the greatest country ever.
From the Galt Auto Studios, this is WNBF News Radio AM 1290. Also available at 92.1 FM. We sell the ultimate driving machine at Galt BMW.
WNBF.
923 WNBF with the Binghamton Now program. I'm Bob Joseph.
If you wake up, don't wanna smile. If it takes just a little while, open your eyes, look at the day. You'll see things in a different way. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop. It'll soon be here. It'll be better than before. Yesterday's gone. Yesterday's gone.
Now, the weather from WNBF Weather Radio. Better not say that. I'll be in trouble with the operators of WXL38. It's quite the crew that they have there. I love that station, by the way. They're the morning zoo at Weather Radio, WXL38. Anyway, this is WNBF News Radio at 92.1 FM, 1290 AM. The forecast courtesy of the National Weather Service, the folks who bring you Weather Radio, all the rage at certain times of the year. Cloudy today, a slight chance of showers this morning, high 43. A little bit of drizzle seemed to be experienced as I sauntered into the station. Partly cloudy tonight, low 27, mostly sunny tomorrow, high 54. Thursday, beautiful, sunny and 60. Right now, in the heart of Parlor City, it's 43. That's 6 Celsius at Air Radio. Now it's Air Radio because I'm looking up the air quality. I think the air quality is pretty tasty. 28. Air quality index 28, so that's good. Good breathing. Good breathing. What else is on our website, WNBF.com? Interesting story for those of you who are familiar with the Airport Inn. The Airport Inn restaurant, conveniently located on the Airport Road. And surprisingly, very close to the greater Binghamton Airport, as WNBF.com advises, the owner is actually looking for someone to buy the place. So if you have the right amount of financing, you would be able to acquire this legendary venue. Airport Inn Restaurant. So that story is on WNBF.com, and I suggest that you look it up. Look it up. Look it up. Go ahead. Look it up on your website. Oh, one thing I didn't include in the story was this bit of trivia. The Airport Inn played a bit role in one of the best movies of all time, the Liebestrom movie, which was shot entirely in the Binghamton area. It's hard to believe the movie was shot 33 years ago. The Airport Inn. I think I'm going to do an updated story about Liebestrom. I think enough time has passed that it's a good thing to do a story about Liebestrom. You remember that Lynch-esque production that was shot here in the Binghamton area. But in 1990, according to the Press and Sun Bulletin, the widest exposure the Airport Inn usually gets is to travelers going to and from what was then called Edwin A. Link Field. But the Airport Inn was the site of filming for the movie Liebestrom, which may give the inn national exposure. The Airport Inn was closed to the public since Saturday, according to a guy in Maine. And that guy said that a movie crew was prepared Saturday through Wednesday. They spent several days preparing for the shooting of a scene that took place on Thursday, and then says they would need a couple days to clean up the place so the inn could reopen, according to someone affiliated with Liebestrom. So, if you remember that movie, as well as I do, maybe you remember, I think in the final cut that was released to the public, I'm told the Airport Inn could be seen for a few seconds. I'm going to have to go back and take a look at my copy of Liebestrom to see how many seconds the Airport Inn scene was included. I know, because I consulted with my Liebestrom movie expert, who told me on the DVD that was released, the unreleased scene that was shot at the Airport Inn was included on the DVD. So, of course, that was the old Airport Inn building, which sadly was destroyed by a fire in 2019. But anyway, take a look at the website, WNBF.com, for all your Airport Inn news, because WNBF is committed to keeping an eye on things around here. I'm Bob Joseph. You're listening to Binghamton Now.
News Radio 1290 WNBF. Bob Joseph. We'll sing in the sunshine. We'll laugh every day. We'll sing in the sunshine. Then I'll be on my way.
WNBF, these Taylor Swift re-recordings sound weird, don't they?
I will never love you. The cost of love's too dear.
The originals sounded so different. Now that she's re-recording everything she ever did so she can make more money, it just sounds
We
weird.
can sing in the sunshine.
I think it's auto-tune.
We'll laugh every day. We'll sing in the sunshine. And I'll be on my way.
America's #1 hockey fan, Taylor Swift, right there. You heard it on WNBF. Beverly from the town of Dickinson, you're on the air.
Yeah. Bob, where can I get a VCR?
At garage sales. If you go to a garage sale.
Sales, because I was just wondering, you know, I have many of them here, you know. I just wondered if they sold them.
Stores don't sell them, but if you go to a garage sale this weekend, you might be able to find one. That's the best advice. A lot of garage sales have VCRs. Not everyone, but that's your best. If you need a VHS machine, or even harder to acquire, a Beta machine. Did you ever hear of Betamax?
No, not that I know of.
Yeah, well, they had format wars when video cassette recorders were all the rage back in the 30s. They had format wars, and you had VHS, which stood for Video Home System, and then you had Betamax, and they were two competing systems. In the end, Betamax sort of fizzled out, and then the winner in the format war was VHS, because those cassettes could record more quality programming. So, but if you need a VHS recorder, check around at garage sales like some weekend, and you can probably get one for really about $2 or about $5, because by the time people are selling their VHS machine, they just want to get rid of it because they're not going to use those tapes anymore. So some people would probably say, hey, take it, get it out of here. I'm tired of it. So, but that's your best bet, is probably like a garage sale or a yard sale. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. It's 9:35 at WNBF. I have a few VHS tapes left. Someday, and I'm not telling you what day it'll be, but someday, and I've threatened to do this in the past, I think I will put some of my VHS tapes, some of not like my recordings of Twin Peaks, because they're covered by copyright, so not copyrighted TV programs, but I might put up some recordings of the video that I used to shoot here at WNBF Radio. Would you like that? I'm just putting it out there. If you like that idea, you should call me to let me know, because I have a lot of things. Remember Bill Parker, John Leslie, Tony Russell, Don Daniels, Mr. Mike, Dave Freeman. Actually, there were dozens of people. We had video. That was back when video was new, so I thought it would be great to document what goes on here at WNBF Radio for posterity. So if you think it's a good idea at some point that I take some highlights from those classic scenes here at WNBF Radio and then put them up online so the world can enjoy them now, decades later, let me know. If I get enough of a response, I'll do it. And if I don't get much response, I'll probably still do it anyway. But if that's something you'd like to see on your computer, we could call it WNBF Behind the Scenes. Never before seen video of your favorite radio characters. It's 9:37. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Bob from Shenango Forks.
Hey.
Yes, I have quite a few VCR players. And by fact, I bought one at a yard sale last year for $2, and it still had a remote, and it works perfect.
And see, that was my point. At this stage, you can't just go to one random garage sale this Saturday and say, where's your VCR? Because you may not find it at the first one. But I guarantee if you check out a few garage sales over the next couple of weekends, you'll probably find a VHS machine that still works.
Yeah, well, the reason I'm calling is about the movie Liebestraum. Back in the 90s, I had a lawn care business. And me and my friend are in my steak body truck coming up Robinson Street, and the street's deserted. No cars, nothing. And there's cops on every corner. And, we kept going, and we stopped just before Howard Ave. There was a place called Max Sub. And we got a sub. We're sitting there at the bench, and people are looking at us kind of strange, and finally this kid came over and knew my buddy. and it was one of the Burnses, because one of the Burnses was involved in making that movie or something, worked on it, something. And he told us they were filming a movie, so we didn't know anything about it. He goes, well, it's too late for you to move. Just sit still, don't look. And all of a sudden, everybody, like, ducked back in the buildings, and down from the state hospital came the car with, I can't think of the actress. It wasn't Novak, was it? Kim Novak?
Yeah, Kim Novak. She was stuck up there at, well, it's now the health center, but it used to be the psychiatric center. That was a key location for the shooting. She was the biggest name star, even though she got very little face time in the movie.
Right. Well, down the street came the car. In front of that was the camera trucks and stuff like that. So we just sat there. He goes, don't look. Of course, we looked anyways, and we knew we'd be cut out. But my friend knew the Burns kid because my friend was also a roadie for the Burns girls back in those days or whatever. But it was, you know, like I said, I never saw the movie. They do have it, I think, a DVD or a tape at the library because I saw it, and I'm going to have to borrow and take a look at it.
Well, you should. You should. I enjoyed. That was the summer of 1990, and the director was Michael Figgis, and so yes, Kim Novak was in it. Kevin Anderson, Pamela Gidley. Yeah. I personally enjoyed Pamela Gidley, but then it's a matter of personal preference. I thought she was the highlight of the film from where I sat.
Yeah, well, I'll have to go rent it then.
Yeah, you should. We had fun because that's back when WNBF Radio was located at Security Mutual Building. So we were on the 5th floor. Right. So when they were shooting the scenes downtown outside what is the Perry building, but it was called something else in the Liebestrom movie. So we were able to see all the activity, and sometimes it was a little inconvenient because some streets were closed. Shenango Street and Court Street were closed for a while. It was fascinating to see how a movie was shot, and one of my co-workers at the time, he worked over at the Hawk radio station. Did you ever hear of them? The Hawk country station. Oh, yeah. So Eric Dino was an extra, and so he was in one of the party scenes. And so when the movie opened in New York City, I think it opened in 1991. So the movie was playing at a theater in Manhattan. And by then, Eric, I think, had moved down to New York City or that area. And I said to Eric, let's go see the movie at the theater in Manhattan, even though I was up here in Binghamton. So I drove down to New York City and met Eric at the theater. And then we got to watch the first run of Liebestrom in Manhattan. And it was great to see so many scenes from the Binghamton area. Downtown Binghamton, the South Side, off Mill Street, the facility on the east side of Binghamton at the end of Robinson Street, and, of course, the Airport Inn. So, yes, I won't say the story was really strong. It sort of meandered, but it was okay for me because that actually is kind of the quirky movie production I enjoy. A lot of other people thought it just wasn't that sharp a movie. Myself, I thought it was fine. But yeah, if you have a chance, rent the movie, or even I just checked online yesterday. You can get the DVD online for under $15. So it's and the DVD also has that scene. I think a 10-minute scene from the Airport Inn that was not included in the final cut of the movie.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's DVD the library has.
Oh, okay. Well, then, yeah, I didn't know they had it. I was just talking, when I was working on the story about the Airport Inn now being for sale, I contacted my Liebestrom expert, and I was assured that in the final cut, the Airport Inn barely made it. If it made it into the final cut, it was only a few seconds. But on the DVD, I think there's about a 10-minute piece of the section from the airport in that didn't make the cut.
Well,
so, yeah, check out that DVD when you have a
Yeah,
chance.
I'll let you know when I see it if the airport scene's in it then.
Okay. Appreciate your call.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. Yeah.
Thanks. 944 WNBF. Of course, the true star of the movie was the sheriff. I think he was the most compelling character. He had one of the most memorable scenes. As I recall, it's 944. Bob Joseph on your side. Binghamton Now on WNBF.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
It's 949 WNBF, or as they say on the automated stations, 11 before the hour. We're not automated, though. We're live and local. Coming up later today on WNBF, Dan Bongino from noon to 3, Sean Hannity from 3 to 6, and the constitutional experts, Mark Levin, coming up tonight from 6 to 9. Bob Joseph with you on a Tuesday morning on the radio. 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, and streaming at WNBF.com. Also keeping you connected via the free WNBF app. Coming up later today, WNBF.com will have some interesting local news that you're unlikely to see anywhere else, at least for the next few days. So if you want to see some original reporting, I recommend checking out WNBF.com for all your local reporting needs. And then check out every other local website, too, because we're not the be-all and end-all. We are just one small cog in Binghamton's journalistic machine. So celebrate journalism. Celebrate. Next time you see a journalist, say thank you. Except for those of you who think it's all fake. Oh, I don't want to thank a journalist. It's all fake. Ookie dookie. Okay, Tucker. I'm looking at the stories over here at WNBF.com. They're pretty good stories, I think. Still want to know what they're going to do now with the Ozolid building in Johnson City. I have an idea. And I might talk about it later this week. I have a very special idea for the Ozolid building in Johnson City, because at one point they were planning to put in senior housing there, which that would be nice to have some senior housing so close to Main Street, Johnson City. And that building is solid. I was over there a few days ago when I was doing reporting for the story. And what I understand is that they have some other plans that they're pursuing. But still, that'd be a great place for a Binghamton news hub. Can you imagine if we had the money? By the way, we don't have the money, but if we had the money to set up something called the Binghamton News Hub, BNH, and we could have TV, we could have a newspaper, we could have a radio station, we could have online websites. There'd be so much content coming out of the Binghamton News Hub at that building right there. I wonder if I can buy it from the Binghamton University Foundation. 25 Ozolid Road, home of your Binghamton News Hub. Suddenly, all the news that we used to receive and more could come from a single hub. Looks like there are 3 floors. We would even have a community room, so the community could gather at the Binghamton News Hub. TV studios, radio studios, a newsroom with staffed with actual reporters, photojournalists, videographers, investigative teams at the Binghamton News Hub. I would assemble a team of the finest journalists in the tri-state area. Young journalists and older journalists, those who've retired, those who briefly paused their journalistic careers for other opportunities so they could afford to eat. We'd put them all together under one roof. The Binghamton News Hub. Suddenly, news is cool again. That's my vision for that building, the Binghamton News Hub. I have to call Harvey and see. He would support it. 9:54, Bob Joseph, dreaming of news hubs on WNBF.
News Radio 1290 WNBF. Bob Joseph.
They say, oh my God, I see the way you shine. Take your hand, my dear, and place them both in mine. You know you stopped me dead while I was passing by. And now I beg to see you dance just one more time. Ooh, I see you every time. And oh my, I like your style.
WNBF, serving the world
Make me wanna cry.
with 1 telephone and 4 microphones and a big stick on Ingram Hill.
Dance for me, dance for me, dance for me, oh. I never seen anybody do the things you do.
Yeah, that's where the transmitter is.
Say, move for me, move for me, move for me,
People in Lysander are unhappy because of Micron. The big behemoth wants to put a big mega, giga fabrication thing in Clay, not far from the Lysander Town Hall. The people in Lysander are so scared and so fed up with Micron, they actually voted in a new town supervisor, a Democrat of all things. Guy's name is Kevin Rode, and he easily defeated the Republican incumbent supervisor, apparently because people in Lysander are worried about the wacky plans for Micron. They don't want Micron coming in and taking over the town. And so they voted in a new town supervisor. Very interesting. It's 10 o'clock at WNBF Binghamton.
Where news breaks first. News Radio 1290 WNBF.
This is News Radio 1290 WNBF News. Mostly cloudy today, high near 43. Partly cloudy tonight, low around 27. Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 54. A burial service has been held for the dozens of racehorses killed in a fire that tore through a barn at Tioga Downs in Nichols. State police investigators said Thursday morning's blaze in a horse stable was a case of arson. According to a Tioga Downs news release, 30 horses died in the fire. A private burial for the horses was held in what was described as a simple service. The horses were buried together adjacent to where the barn had stood. The racetrack statement said the burial was done with approval from authorities. State police arrested Boyd Fenton of Athens shortly after the fire was reported. He faces felony charges of arson, burglary, criminal mischief, and assault. Edgar Clark sustained second-degree burns at his face after he used a fire extinguisher to try to knock down the flames. 6 of Clark's horses were killed in the blaze. Tioga Downs has announced the racetrack is working to establish a memorial to the horses lost in the fire. The memorial will stand as a lasting tribute to their impact on the harness racing community. The owner of a well-known eatery and event venue north of Binghamton is looking for someone to buy the place. Travis Evans of Glen Albury has operated the Airport Inn restaurant in the town of Maine for more than 2 decades. And while the operations of the restaurant are going very well, he has decided that he'd like to do something different. The restaurant was rebuilt after a fire tore through the old Airport Inn building in January of 2019. The business reopened in a newly constructed facility in April 2020 in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. It initially operated as a takeout restaurant to comply with state restrictions. The Airport Inn business and land located on Airport Road recently were listed for sale with an asking price of $1.9 million. The facility includes a banquet hall and a pavilion. Evans said the business has about 30 employees, but staffing has been a challenge in recent months. While he's hoping to sell the place, Evans said it will continue to be business as usual at the Airport Inn. New York State Governor Kathy Hochul and the New York State Division of Human Rights launched the Hate and Bias Prevention Unit in December of 2022 to help communities combat prejudice and discrimination. The HBPU is chaired by Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado, and the unit's mission is focused around the statewide network of regional councils and a rapid response team. The Division of Human Rights has established 10 regional hate and bias prevention councils representing every region across the state, including the Southern Tier. The councils are comprised of a network of public and private stakeholders that include community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, law enforcement, government agencies, and other advocacy groups. These broad and diverse partners work together in building connections and local capacity to prevent and respond to hate and bias incidences through community engagement and mobilization. The councils provide a place for community members to share information about trends in different areas of the state, develop innovative policy solutions, organize educational programming, host community events to raise awareness about hate and bias prevention, offer healing circles and community dialogues, partner with schools to address intergroup conflict, participate in conflict resolution, and anti-racism training. Philip Ginter, Executive Director of the Ross Park Zoo in Binghamton, announced openings for a limited number of applicants to join an adventure of a lifetime to Nepal in search of red pandas. The trip to Nepal begins November 3rd, 2024 for 10 days. Those joining the adventure will be accompanied by Ross Park Zoo staff. In light of the 5.6 earthquake in Nepal on November 3rd that left villages devastated, support for the ecotourism industry and its recovery in the country is being seen as even more critical to Nepal's national and local economies, as well as for the conservation of biodiversity in the affected regions. The trip, in partnership with the Red Panda Network, has already been in the planning stages prior to the November 3rd natural disaster. During the expedition, participants will witness the wonders of Nepal, in addition to amazing views of Mount Everest and the beauty of the country's culture. There are only 5 to 7 openings for the excursion, with an estimated cost per person of $5,000 to $6,000. For more information, visit the Ross Park Zoo website. That's a look at news. For updates on local news, weather, sports, and features, open up the WNBF app and online at WNBF.com. This is News Radio 1290 WNBF.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
I'm Bob Joseph. This is Binghamton Now on your Tuesday morning. Coming up, we'll be taking more phone calls. First, though, we have guests, the mayor of the village of Johnson City, Martin Maney. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob. How are you today?
Good. Now, somebody told me that 2024 will be a very, very quiet year for Johnson City and little activity is expected throughout the village. Was that person accurate?
I certainly hope not. I haven't heard those rumors.
Just testing. No, it's actually pretty amazing what's going on across the village. I haven't seen this much activity in Johnson City maybe ever at once. I mean, there are a lot of projects that have happened over the last few years, some new projects, new building, demolitions, reconstruction, things being repurposed and so on. So it seems that almost everywhere you look throughout the village, there are some things going on in terms of commercial, educational, recreational. Seems a lot is happening in Johnson City.
Yes, we're to use a metaphor, we're like a butterfly coming out of its cocoon right now. We're transitioning nicely, and there's a lot of transition going on.
All right. So we'll try to cover quite a few things. First, and I know we touched on this, I think, in our last episode a few weeks ago, and I know finally I got around to reporting the story because I contacted Jerry Willard with the First Ward Action Council, the old Ozalid building on the east end, the eastern boundary of Binghamton University's Health Sciences campus. At one point, the university is working with a partnership with the First Ward Action Council to potentially develop 30 senior housing units in there. And I know the project, the early stages, got pretty far along. I believe even in late September, it received approval from the village planning board, but ultimately, according to Jerry Willard of the First Ward Action Council, they've decided to not proceed with that housing development.
Yeah, it's unfortunate at this time that they're not looking to move forward in partnership with Binghamton University Foundation, because that was going to be a combination of the senior housing and Upstate Medical was going to have a space inside the 18 Park Street. From what I was told, that it was just a timing issue where First Ward Action Council really wasn't prepared and comfortable to move forward at the pace that Binghamton University was hoping to get the site developed.
And Jerry Willard mentioned, and I've had similar conversations with local officials when it comes to housing projects that are very much contingent on a state funding aspect. The state of New York does provide grants for various projects, but the process is complicated, and certainly many times it depends, say, if some other project is in the pipeline for a community or a town, sometimes that can affect the overall timing of project applications, other project applications, because I think the state really works to maybe approve 2 or 3 projects a year in a certain area, but then those that didn't make the cut in a particular year get put off. Similar to what happened, I think, with the IBM Country Club project just outside Johnson City. They were planning to start that earlier this year.
Well, but I don't think they applied until this round.
No, but I think they waited intentionally because I know they initially were talking about applying for that with the previous round, last fall. But you're right. For that project, they just applied finally, I believe, in the last few weeks. So that's why, that project didn't go forward initially. Because remember, when they were tearing down the IBM Country Club, the IDA and the county executive, they were discussing actual groundbreaking this past spring. So something got changed, whether it was the application or something. But anyway, the project got pushed back about a year.
Well, right, and it's just it's HCR. It's the agency, the state agency that distributes the grants, administers the grants, and it's a lengthy process. And we spoke probably a year ago. You and I were chatting about 333 Grand Ave. And that still has not come to fruition. They haven't broke ground on it at all yet because they still haven't gotten their funding. And I know they applied again in this round. And I think the governor is told HCR they should open up a little more because there are many projects that need to be done throughout the state, and she is a big proponent of housing, and she's I guess telling HCR maybe they should ease these requirements or restrictions that it's not in any state law that HCR just seems to have adopted where they're only going to fund one or two projects per season.
And I know that has created frustration in different parts of the state, including here in the Triple Cities. I mean, whether it's Binghamton or Endicott or Johnson City, a lot of projects depend on HCR-related programs, and if those programs, for whatever reason, don't move forward on the schedule that you would like, then you see some of these big projects, as you say, Grand Avenue, where Philadelphia Sales used to be. I know the developer Larry Regan had talked about his plan for a 72-unit complex, a 4-story building at that site. He had talked about that more than a year ago, but again, until you get the financing component settled, you can't go forward. You can't start construction until you have every aspect of the financing in place.
No, and that's so hopefully with HCR awarding more than a few grants a year, that should hopefully get these projects off the back burner and get shovels in the ground.
So ultimately, with this one building, we're hopping back over to the health sciences campus there, the Ozolid building. I went there a few days ago to take some more current pictures for the story that the apartment project wasn't going to go forward. But I think there might still be this possibility that the university can finalize a partnership with Upstate Medical University. I know President Stenger had talked about that earlier this year, so perhaps that'll be one part of the building, but it's a big building. He had also, some years ago, when the Binghamton University Foundation acquired the building, he was talking about perhaps using a section of the first floor for manufacturing purposes, for manufacturing pharmaceuticals in conjunction with the pharmacy school.
Yeah, from what I've learned in my short time as mayor and dealing with President Stanger, is he always seems to have a plan B, and it's a good thing, so he's not just tunnel visioned or focused on, all right, if this doesn't work, the project is dead. He always has a plan B. So I'm sure there's something in the near future we'll be seeing from President Stanger, what he's going to put in there along with Upstate Medical.
Right. Well, I wouldn't be surprised for some sites he has plans C and D.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, it's like 4D chess. Not everybody is able to play that game, but right. Some people, by nature of their job responsibilities, they have to look at all potential angles. It's 10:19. We're talking with Johnson City Mayor Martin Maney. Well, speaking of Binghamton University and speaking of a project that I think is just now starting to emerge at one of the finest newspaper printing facilities of the 21st century, sadly used only for 12 years, but certainly financed at great expense by state taxpayers under the Brownfield program, the old Gannett building on Gannett Drive, of all places. The University Foundation also acquired that, and I understand that there now is discussion of a new use for the old newspaper printing plant.
Yeah, he's. I know that they've moved a lot of their book storage in there, and I believe they've been in front of our zoning and/or planning. One of them, I think they're also looking to put some classroom space in there to do their speech pathology program.
So ultimately, and that would seem to tie in with the other health science campus components that are located generally along Corliss Avenue.
Yes, and with their expansion of classrooms in there, that just that helps. Our Les Drave corridor now, brings that in with more of the health and science campuses, and it's going to continue growth here in Johnson City.
See anything else happening in that general area? Because you've got the old newspaper printing plant, and then of course a lot of people do business at the Walmart store next door. Then a lot of people visit the CFJ Park. Is there any expectation of other things that would or could happen in that general area? Because they're, again, with the educational component now with BU, the retail component with Walmart, and then the recreational component with CFJ Park. A lot of people, and I almost forgot the Visions Federal Credit Union at on Pavilion Drive. So you've got a lot of people coming into that area for various reasons. Is that likely to remain the same or just slightly evolve over the next few years?
I honestly don't know who has plans for anything more and more development there. There is, I'll date myself, where Whipple's was, and then it became Hank's. That there's that parcel right there. I'm sure as time goes on, there's going to be. I would love to see some development there. Because
that's a good point
right now.
Right. Well, that's a good point. That's located just west of CFJ Park and just steps away from the Victory Lofts apartments with 156 apartments. So I could see potentially. Is there? Do you, as mayor, see a potential that land there, that across from Red's Kettle Inn and CFJ Park and behind the Victory Lofts on the other side of the tracks, does that have potential for retail at some point?
Well, I'm sure it's got potential for whatever somebody's vision is. I mean, there's a big sign that says it's for sale or lease. So I'm hopefully, with the continued development in that area, especially with what people can see. I mean, you drive down the highway and you see how gorgeous the Victory Factory is now, and it's got life in there, and there's lights on. And wow, there's this lot right across from it. What activity can we build from there?
Well, what about residential? Would there be, because you've got, of course, as I mentioned, Matthew Paulus completed the Victory Lofts project. He's moving forward with the smaller project at 18 Avenue B across from
Thank you, sir. Yes.
So could residential be also possibly in the mix with that land we were just talking about? Do you see any reason, say if somebody says, hey, we have a vision for some sort of residential project and it might fit well there. Is there any reason you know of that it couldn't potentially go there?
Other than economy, no. I mean,
that's...
we would, as far as the village is concerned, we'd welcome people to come in and take a look at it. We've got zero issues with working with anybody that wants to put something in there that fits with the area. I mean, obviously, you wouldn't want to see a mill or a steel press or something going in there that would. Manufacturing is good. Don't get me wrong. We need manufacturing in this area, but it wouldn't suit the neighborhood anymore. Yeah, this neighborhood has transitioned, I think, out of the manufacturing site that it once was into retail and residential space.
But I could see a case being made for a potential decent residential complex directly across from the park, call it Carousel Lofts. It'd be directly across from the carousel at CFJ Park. Then you've got some of the other things going. Some people would like the fact that they'd be close to the big box store there. Mm-hmm. And who knows, maybe some BU professors who will be working over at the former Gannett building, maybe they'd like to be able to walk to work.
And who knows, Gannett may change their mind and put a printing press in there again.
I wouldn't put it past them. They've surprised us in the past. Wouldn't that be great if they decided that they're going to come up with a super newspaper in the face, fly in the face of technology, and come up with the biggest newspaper in the history of the USA today?
Yeah, there you go. Right, and the main printing site would be right there, right across the street where they could look at their former printing plant.
I would support that. I would conduct the first interview with Gary Gannett, and commend him as being a visionary for 21st century print newspapers. We're talking with the Johnson City Mayor Martin Maney. Hopscotching back over to Avenue B with Matthew Paulus. I believe, that project at 19 Avenue B is still something that's we could see work beginning in the not too distant future there, because that's another residential project that Mr. Paulus has discussed.
I know that he's had some issues going on, so a few family issues, and that's kind of taken a front seat for what's going on with him right now. I know that he wants to get moving quickly on 19 Avenue B, and because he's got the commercial component he's got, so he needs to get moving on that, and then again to develop it into the apartments. They're going to be 1-bedroom workforce apartments that are going to be put in there.
It's 10:26. We'll be talking more with Johnson City Mayor in just a moment. I'm Bob Joseph on News Radio WNBF.
From the Galt Auto Studios, this is WNBF News Radio AM 1290. Also available at 92.1 FM. Save in a big way at Galt Chevrolet.
First News Binghamton, News Radio 1290, WNBF. I'm coming up, so you better get this party started. I'm coming up, so you better get this party started.
It's WNBF at 10:30. I'm Bob Joseph. We're speaking with Johnson City Mayor Martin Maney. A development project also is being planned for the old Johnson City High School at 435 Main Street. We spoke a bit about this a few weeks ago, but that's another building, certainly a building that's been standing there for over a century, that at some point in the next few years could come back to life.
Yes, I know they're close to acquiring the property. Mark Lane is, and it's going to be exciting. He's going to put commercial and residential space into it, and he's going to have, I guess, from what he's told me, a mix of residential space where some's going to be affordable housing, the rest will be market rate. And it's going to be nice to see that building has been, again, like you said, it's been here for just over 100 years, and it had smaller businesses in it that have kind of gone on the wane, and just to see it with, I guess, more life in it, it's going to be another asset to our downtown.
And we've seen quite a few things already going on right in that area, both to the west and east of the old high school. Of course, to the west, just outside the village, UHS has been repurposing the Aldi store. The Westover Aldi store is going to be turned into a daycare center, which could probably open in the next couple of months, I believe. And then a bit to the east, the former CVS pharmacy building is being renovated right now, and UHS will be using that as a 24/7 retail pharmacy, and also a site where vaccinations and some other services will be provided.
Yes, it's going to be, hopefully that keeps spreading. As we were discussing, Walgreens is going to be closing or has closed. So hopefully the repurposing of these buildings on that part of Main Street continues to happen, so they don't sit idle for very long.
The closing of Walgreens, that seemed to happen suddenly. I know a couple weeks before they pulled the plug and put up a sign that said, oh, by the way, I enjoyed the sign in the front entrance. It said important information. And when people showed up, it said basically, important information, we're closed. And I thought, well, that's one way to go about it. At least when CVS closes pharmacies, they usually give customers and employees a few weeks' notice. Did you know that Walgreens was going to shut down? I had heard some rumors and went over to ask the employees, and the people I spoke with all claimed that it wasn't going to close. Did you know it would close?
No, I did not. Zero, it was rather Jejune way they put it out there. They just put it on the sign, and that was that.
Yeah, they sent some emails to some of their loyal customers 3 days after it closed to let them know.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, when every business in Johnson City that closes that doesn't have to report to the state, we do not receive any notification that they're closing, other than when the general public finds out as well.
But it still is kind of interesting. I mean, again, every company has its own philosophy. I mean, sometimes a surprise closure, I guess, is one way to instill confidence in the brand going forward. That I was thinking, maybe they do it so for the stores that are still open, it encourages people to go to those stores to support them, or else we'll close those too.
Well, at least you would hope that they're like you said, their customers who have their prescriptions filled there were made aware long before the closing, so they could get their medications in order, so they could find a new place to get their medications filled.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Well, by the way, they still haven't returned my call, but I'll.
Nobody's there.
But of all the stories I need to follow up on, that's sort of on the back burner. 10:35 here at WNBF. Tioga State Bank. I remember a few years ago that Tioga State Bank acquired property not far from what was then called the Oakdale Mall. And there was a plan at the time, and I knew it wasn't going to happen quickly, but there was a plan that Tioga State Bank would put in a new sort of more modern and not big, but sort of a modern branch over on Harry L. Drive. And I see that they actually have had another site plan review before the planning board. So it appears that Tioga State Bank will be eventually going forward with constructing something at that site.
Yes, speaking with some of their representatives, again, this was another COVID casualty as they started the process before COVID hit, and then COVID hit, and it put this out into the distant future. Now, hopefully, it's in the not so distant future that they're going to be moving forward on it. And again, the development in that area is just it's feeding. It's just feeding off of each other. What's happened at the Oakdale Commons is moving into the neighborhood. Hopefully, the Mortal Kombat mess to that intersection of 201 and Harry L. We've tried to ease that again with the traffic signals. It's not semaphore. It's just a traffic signal. And I think as soon as people again get acclimated to it, that they will be able to see that it's a double left into Wegmans, which will ease congestion up, which will, again, that'll help because Tioga State Bank is just west of Wegmans. So it'll, hopefully that helps with their construction project, because I'm sure once they move in, we'll see more congestion in that area.
And I am looking at the original story that I reported 4 years ago. In fact, it was November 2019 when the bank president, Robert Fisher, said they were planning a bank of the future with a newer, higher tech, high touch feel that would be different from their traditional offices. And he said it would have a pod design that was being adopted by the industry. And again, not a big bank, maybe only 3,000 square feet or so. But at the time, he said that they were going to be working with the town of Union officials as well as village officials, because there had been the animal hospital and some other nearby buildings were demolished in preparation for the bank project. But as you mentioned, over the last few years, the pandemic changed quite a few things.
Yes, so, hopefully, again, the economy, too. It's just... as we know, interest rates have fluctuated quite a bit, and so these people have to sit down and look at their performance, say, okay, can we still afford to do this? Because interest rates have gone up.
And for every day or week that is lost in starting construction, I mean, construction costs really never go down. So
no.
if they were going to do, and I don't believe Mr. Fisher ever said how much the project was going to cost, but say if it was going to be a $2 million project 4 years ago, by now it could be a $4 million project,
right,
just the way costs have gone up.
Right.
Speaking of the Oakdale Commons area, there still seems to be a lot of construction continuing. The House of Sport now has been open for several weeks. The 2 restaurants near there have also been open for a while. And I also see at the most recent planning board meeting, there was additional discussion about the 2 of the higher profile businesses that will be coming in there, Dave & Buster's, probably in the next 3 months or so, and also BJ's Wholesale Club. And I know those projects are moving quite quickly.
Yes. From what we've been told here at the village, that BJ's they hope to open sometime at the end of January, and Dave & Buster's is looking hopefully to open around the same time as March Madness, which is, good for them. They've been in front of the planning board because they need some zoning for signs, the variances for signs. And they're moving rapidly. That I drive by them all half a dozen times a day, and just the pace that they've put the structure up for BJ's is just very impressive to watch.
Speaking of that area, one of the losses not too long ago for many people, especially for traditionalists, was the closing of the Friendly's restaurant. Have they torn that down yet?
No, they have not torn that down yet. And I guess, it's slated for a car wash, and it's been to the planning board, and that's where it is. That's as far as I can go with any explanation on what's happening there.
But they're still planning to do a splash car wash, the last you knew.
Yes.
All right. But Friendly's hasn't been torn down yet.
No. But Friendly's is closed.
Right. Well,
I think that must have been the last Friendly's in the area.
Just about. And that was the sad thing. They were, for a while, there were lots of Friendly's, and then for whatever reason, I think the way the company was run, that's what somebody told me.
Oh, it's too bad.
Yeah, it is too bad, because people around the Triple Cities liked all their Friendly's, but oh well, times change, and the way I look at it, and you have no need to comment, we lose a Friendly's and gain a Chick-fil-A, ultimately. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to comment.
I can't offer a comment because I'm just like you. I have no idea when and if it's going to come.
No, but we can have
would it be an asset to our community?
Sure.
I think so.
Even if they sold chicken,
I have no idea.
Sure. Yeah. Even if they sold chicken sandwiches only 4 days a week. Even if they sold them just Monday through Thursday, that'd be fine by me. It's 10:41. We'll talk more about Johnson City with the mayor, Martin Maney, in just a moment here on WNBF and WNBF.com. WNBF at 10:44. This is Binghamton Now with Bob Joseph. And we're speaking with Johnson City Mayor Martin Maney. DRI, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. This has been talked about for, seems like, the last couple of years. And now I understand the village is preparing to turn its application into the state very soon.
Yes, we should be submitting our application before the year is out. It's been a long process with a lot of meetings and a lot of hard work put in by a lot of good people. And it's going to be nice once the state gets it, and hopefully they see that we've done our due diligence, and they will start awarding the grant money rather quickly instead of later, because I know some of these projects people would like to get moving forward on, and you have to expend the funds before the state reimburses you. So I know a lot of these people they can't start their projects because once you start it, if there's anything that you spend out of that project prior to being awarded, then the state will not give you the money. So there's a lot of projects in the pipeline that want to get started, and hopefully the state, all right, your project is good, so they could get building and then get reimbursed the funds.
So of the things that'll be covered in the DRI application, is there one in particular that you think is most prominent or most promising? Well,
we have $9.7 million in grant funding. And that's what the DRI award is. The state keeps $300,000 to pay the consultants. We are going to be submitting over $12 million, so the state will end up sorting out what they want to award, or if they want to reduce amounts, or they feel that a project isn't good, because we don't want to run into the problem. I think Endicott ran into this where, was it the Green Mountain lights pulled out of the DRI?
Yeah,
the big hit.
The old the old Kmart Plaza turned out not to be suitable for what Green Mountain needed.
Right. So that was a big hit, and that kind of threw their submittal into disarray. So that's why we're submitting quite a bit more than what we're awarded. So if, God forbid, there's a big project that pulls out of this, that we won't be searching for something to fill a void.
It's 10:47. More to come as we focus on Johnson City on this Tuesday morning. I'm Bob Joseph. This is WNBF 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
WNBF Live at 10:50. This is Bob Joseph. This hour talking about Johnson City with the mayor, Martin Maney. I see work is underway at the little corner park, Jennison Park, near Corliss Avenue and Willow Street. They've been busy the last couple of weeks. Tell us about the work that is getting underway and what is ultimately going to happen with that small village park near the BU Health Sciences campus.
Okay, all the groundwork's being done. The paving and the elevation changes. There's a small little amphitheater that's component that's built into that, which you could kind of see coming to fruition if you walk by the park. The park won't be completed until next year. It's just we're finally got the construction group in there starting, so it will be done before hopefully summer hits next year. It's just going to be a nice little gathering space, little performance space. There's going to be some art structures in there, and with any luck, maybe the Goodwill Theater, or not the Goodwill Theater, but the Firehouse Stage. Maybe they'll move something outside and have a little small performance venue out there for them to take advantage of and bring some music and some performance to that area of the village.
Next to the Jennison Park, Binghamton University has been discussing over the last few years a vision for green space, sort of park space, that is supposed to be developed on the parcels that Binghamton University Foundation acquired over the last few years. Have you heard anything new about getting the plans for that BU green space project finalized, that area between Corliss Avenue and Main Street?
I know that they would love to get moving on it. Whether they move forward with or without acquiring the last parcel that's on the green space area, I know that when we discussed our park plans with their green space park plans, that we worked together, so there'll be a seamless transition from what we have to what President Stanger has envisioned for his green space.
I understand that one holdout, and I've spoken with the owner of that apartment building that is about the only thing, I guess it is the only thing.
It is the only thing, yes.
Yeah, on Lewis Street that hasn't been acquired. When I spoke with him, he seemed pretty adamant that he didn't intend to sell. And so I'm guessing that probably the university has a plan A and a plan B for developing the green space. I guess probably their preference would be able to take the entire swath, including that part on the south side of Lewis Street, and turn it all into green space next to Jennison Park and across the street from the nursing school building and near the new partnership building they have with Lourdes Hospital, and just do it that way. But I suppose they could move forward, and if they don't get the property where that apartment building now sits.
Right, and that last parcel that they would like to acquire, it's not in the middle of it, but it's not on the end. So it's not like, again, I'm sure they have a plan B where they've got a workaround where if they can't acquire it in the near future, that they'll just, they'll build around it and they'll incorporate some nice things to maybe keep that last building concealed from the rest of the green space.
Also, not far from there, right at the Johnson City Binghamton line, is the EJ Workers Arch. And I know that there have been plans in the pipeline to do the necessary repairs so parts of the arch don't crumble. Where do things stand in the effort to find somebody who can do that work?
Well, that's such an effulgent landmark to the village that, again, we are putting it out to bid. It's going to be out to bid again with the next month. That we need to get that done. The crumbling, it just doesn't, the optics aren't good. It's stable and it's safe, but it's just the optics. And we need to bring that back. I mean, that's just, that kind of defines, it's the border between the city of Binghamton and the village of Johnson City, but that's just the definitive mark of Johnson City right there, the home of the square deal.
Anything else we didn't touch on? I think we covered most of the village.
We did. We did a nice job in a short period of time.
Well, Martin Maney, Mayor of Johnson City, thanks for joining us. I encourage other mayors to join us because there's so much to report, a lot going on around the Triple Cities, and we are always glad to be able to bring the information to Binghamton Now listeners. Thanks for joining us. We'll have you back
Bob,
on soon.
One quick question.
Yes.
Is Johnson City still your favorite village?
Absolutely.
All right, because you didn't start the show off like that today, so I was a little concerned. I had to ask.
Well, Linda Jackson, I've told her privately. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Maney.
Yep, have a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks.
WNBF Binghamton.
Where news breaks first. News Radio 1290 WNBF.
This is News Radio 1290 WNBF News. Mostly cloudy today, high near 43. Partly cloudy tonight, low around 27. Wednesday, mostly sunny with a high near 54. A burial service has been held for the dozens of racehorses killed in a fire that tore through a barn at Tioga Downs in Nichols. State police investigators said Thursday morning's blaze in a horse stable was a case of arson. According to a Tioga Downs news release, 30 horses died in the fire. A private burial for the horses was held in what was described as a simple service. The horses were buried together adjacent to where the barn had stood. The racetrack statement said the burial was done with approval from authorities. State police arrested Boyd Fenton of Athens shortly after the fire was reported. He faces felony charges of arson, burglary, criminal mischief, and assault. Edgar Clark sustained second-degree burns at his face after he used a fire extinguisher to try to knock down the flames. 6 of Clark's horses were killed in the blaze. Tioga Downs has announced the racetrack is working to establish a memorial to the horses lost in the fire. The memorial will stand as a lasting tribute to their impact on the harness racing community. The owner of a well-known eatery and event venue north of Binghamton is looking for someone to buy the place. Travis Evans of Glen Albury has operated the Airport Inn restaurant in the town of Maine for more than 2 decades. And that while the operations of the restaurant are going very well, he has decided that he'd like to do something different. The restaurant was rebuilt after a fire tore through the old Airport Inn building in January of 2019. The business reopened in a newly constructed facility in April 2020 in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. It initially operated as a takeout restaurant to comply with state restrictions. The Airport Inn business and land located on Airport Road recently were listed for sale with an asking price of $1.9 million. The facility includes a banquet hall and a pavilion. Evans said the business has about 30 employees, but staffing has been a challenge in recent months. While he's hoping to sell the place, Evans said it will continue to be business as usual at the Airport Inn. New York State Governor Kathy Hochul and the New York State Division of Human Rights launched the Hate and Bias Prevention Unit in December of 2022 to help communities combat prejudice and discrimination. The HBPU is chaired by Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado, and the unit's mission is focused around the statewide network of regional councils and a rapid response team. The Division of Human Rights has established 10 regional hate and bias prevention councils representing every region across the state, including the Southern Tier. The councils are comprised of a network of public and private stakeholders that include community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, law enforcement, government agencies, and other advocacy groups. These broad and diverse partners work together in building connections and local capacity to prevent and respond to hate and bias incidences through community engagement and mobilization. The councils provide a place for community members to share information about trends in different areas of the state, develop innovative policy solutions, organize educational programming, host community events to raise awareness about hate and bias prevention, offer healing circles and community dialogues, partner with schools to address intergroup conflict, participate in conflict resolution, and anti-racism training. Philip Ginter, Executive Director of the Ross Park Zoo in Binghamton, announced openings for a limited number of applicants to join an adventure of a lifetime to Nepal in search of red pandas. The trip to Nepal begins November 3rd, 2024 for 10 days. Those joining the adventure will be accompanied by Ross Park Zoo staff. In light of the 5.6 earthquake in Nepal on November 3rd that left villages devastated, support for the ecotourism industry and its recovery in the country is being seen as even more critical to Nepal's national and local economies, as well as for the conservation of biodiversity in the affected regions. The trip, in partnership with the Red Panda Network, has already been in the planning stages prior to the November 3rd natural disaster. During the expedition, participants will witness the wonders of Nepal, in addition to amazing views of Mount Everest and the beauty of the country's culture. There are only 5 to 7 openings for the excursion, with an estimated cost per person of $5,000 to $6,000. For more information, visit the Ross Park Zoo website. That's a look at news. For updates on local news, weather, sports, and features, open up the WNBF app and online at WNBF.com. This is News Radio 1290 WNBF.
The real radio station. Serving real information in real time to real people with a real announcer, with real phones, actual microphones, and a commitment to serve the community. This is WNBF, and I'm Bob Joseph. Glad to be with you. Coming up in a few minutes, we'll be taking your phone calls, so if you have thoughts, please focus, take a deep breath, and then work the phones. You know how to work them. And that's how you get on to WNBF. And that is what Richard Bucci did. He dialed in and he said, good morning. And I said, good morning. The former Binghamton mayor joins us live here on this Tuesday morning. How you doing?
Very good. How about yourself?
Great. What's going on over on the west side? Anything happening?
Oh, look, right now things are pretty calm, which is good. Getting ready for the holiday. So looking forward to that. And, the lawn signs are coming down from the previous election. So kind of moving into a little bit of normalcy, I guess.
Yeah. Have you put up any holiday lighting yet?
No, not yet. I traditionally wait till the Saturday after Thanksgiving. I don't do it much before that.
Yeah, I think most people try to wait. Some people try to do it early just to beat the weather, but sometimes when I see people putting up the holiday lighting, like around the 4th of July, sometimes I think they're going just a tad too far.
Definitely.
Anyway, what's on your mind?
Well, thank you for having me on. The reason I'm calling is I was listening to your election preview last week, and Mayor Ryan was on talking about his administration. But he was also, again, misrepresenting the state of the city's finances when he took office. And I think you've heard this innumerable times over the years. His claim is that the city was not only bankrupt, but my administration was hiding it. And that last comment is really what kind of motivated me to call in. Not only is this inaccurate, but it's not possible. Over the years, Mayor David has done a good job of rebutting these assertions, but I've never called in to address them. So I'd like to do that this morning, just take a few minutes to give you my overview of where things were when I left office. First and foremost, the Comptroller's Office, the New York State Comptroller's Office, reviews the city's finances annually. If there are any irregularities, if there's any red flags, they would put the city, the mayor, and city council on notice. If the city was bankrupt, they would come in and take control of the finances. So obviously there was no notice of irregularities, nor any intervention by the Comptroller's Office. So the bottom line is you just can't hide fiscal irregularities or bankruptcy from the Comptroller's Office. And like I said, they review all the cities, municipalities in New York State on an annual basis. The other point I want to raise is our bond rating. Every year when the city goes to bond for infrastructure improvements or capital expenditures, its finances are reviewed by Moody's. And Moody's not only reviews our finances, but it evaluates what it thinks the future fiscal health of the city will be. When I left office, Moody's had assigned us a AAA bond rating. And according to Moody's, this means our obligations are judged to be of the highest quality with minimal risk. So Moody's doesn't assign a AAA bond rating if a municipality is on the verge of bankruptcy. Just doesn't happen.
All right.
Next point that I know. Go ahead.
Maybe I'll ask a couple questions afterwards. I'll let you make. I'll let you continue to make your points. I may have a couple of follow-up questions.
Sure. Absolutely. Okay. The next thing is financial reporting. The Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada reviewed our finances annually. And my administration was continually recognized by this very prestigious organization for its excellence and accuracy in financial reporting. So a municipality doesn't achieve this recognition if it's playing hide and seek with its finances. It just doesn't happen. So I think these are three potent facts: the Comptroller's review, AAA bond rating, recognition from the U.S. Association of Finance Officers from the U.S. and Canada. And when Mayor Ryan hears these points, he just dismisses them because they don't fit into his narrative. The other thing what I think is important to kind of paint the picture of where we were, is that when a mayor comes into office, your first year in office, you're essentially inheriting the finances of the previous administration. So if there's fiscal problems or serious fiscal threats, they're usually reflected in the first budget that you create. And when Mayor Ryan's first budget, when he came into office, he increased taxes for homeowners by 2.5%. That's a pretty moderate tax increase. If the city was on the edge of a fiscal cliff, there's no way he could have crafted a budget with that minimal of a tax increase. He just couldn't do it. When I came into office, my first year, I had to raise taxes 6.4% to deal with some of the issues that I inherited. So kind of paint a picture of first years in office. And if you want to take it a step further, without getting into too many figures, my last year in office, I raised taxes 6.2% because I was trying to address as many issues as possible before Mayor Ryan came into office. But, the first year tax increases tell the story. His was 2.5, mine was 6.4. And again, if there's bankruptcy, fiscal distress, you just can't craft a budget that doesn't balance. And then the next point, I know he's talked a lot about fund balance. I'm sure, I think you probably could quote this back to me. I think you've heard it so many times. But the point I want to stress that there are 3 funds on which the city's finances are built. There's the general fund, the water fund, and the sewer fund. So if you want to get an accurate fiscal status of the city, you have to take all 3 funds into consideration. So when Mayor Ryan left office, he had a general fund balance of $9.8 million. He had a water fund balance of $500,000. And he had a sewer fund deficit of $4.2 million. So I'm going to repeat that. He had a sewer fund deficit, $4.2 million. So if you take the cumulative fund balance, the 3 funds, he had a fund balance of $6.1 million. You take everything into consideration. When I left office, there was a general fund balance of $3.1 million, a water fund balance of $1 million, and a sewer fund balance of $1.2 million. So my cumulative fund balance was $5.3 million. So approximately a difference of $800,000 between the 2 of us. But I think it's important to stress that a lot of his fund balance was based on the salaries and benefits of the 20 police officers that he cut during his tenure. So I think that gives you an accurate picture of where the fund balances were. And just one last fact that I kind of think puts everything into perspective is that when I left office, the city was at 69% of its constitutional tax limit. And when Mayor Ryan left office, the city was at 93% of its constitutional tax limit. So, you might ask the question, how do I explain, Mayor Ryan's innumerable calls over the years with the same story, that I left the city bankrupt, and not only do we leave it bankrupt, but we were hiding it, which is completely impossible. And I just believe that he's repeated this so many times that he actually believes it. It's Matt Ryan's urban legend. And like most urban legends, they're interesting tales, but there's just no basis in fact. So I think, I kind of want to sum it up that way, but I want to go back to Comptroller's Review, AAA bond rating, recognition by the finance officers of the U.S. and Canada, all pointing to a picture of fiscal health, integrity, and stability. And like I said, to make the assertion that we were bankrupt and hiding it just absolutely has no basis in fact.
Speaking with the former mayor of Binghamton, Richard Bucci, at 11:20 here on WNBF. I could ask you a few more questions about all that, but I think you covered, and I think you gave a good overview of your perspective, so I'll leave it there for the moment. One thing that I want to touch on, though, is what just happened a week ago with the elections, the city council elections. What was your reaction with the strength that the Democratic candidate showed in this year's elections?
Well, I kind of was more of an observer than, a participant in the races. But, and I've been asking myself the same question and actually thinking about it. And my assessment is this: the Republican candidates worked very hard. The Democratic candidates worked very hard. But I just think that the Democratic candidates had a better ground game than we did. I think they were better at putting volunteers on the street, personal interaction with voters, things along those lines. So don't want to diminish all the hard work the Republicans put in, because I know a lot of the candidates were working very hard. But those intangibles, those other things you don't see, phone banks, volunteer groups going door to door, I think those have an impact. And I think that they can help sway voters, and I think they can help pull voters out to vote. One of the things that I always said, to voters, I don't know what either party did. Well, I do know our house got a call from Democratic volunteers to go out to vote on Election Day. I'm not sure if the Republicans had the same operation. Just because I didn't get a call doesn't mean they weren't doing it. But in all the years that I ran, the 3 times I ran for mayor, I always said that one of the most critical parts of the election cycle is election day itself. And what I would do is I would be on the phone, and I would have volunteers on the phone starting at 10 o'clock in the morning on election day, and I would spend the day calling voters right up to 8 o'clock. Because you have to, people know it's election day, but, sometimes they need to be reminded to get out. And when the candidate himself or herself calls, I think that's potent. And so I think those kind of things kind of help shape the results that we saw on election night.
Do you think that, as you mentioned, you didn't have a big role in this year's election, but do you think, say, if you, as a former Republican mayor, had taken a greater role, and perhaps even a greater role with former Republican Mayor Rich David, and perhaps even more involvement with the current mayor, Republican Jared Cram, you think that could have made a difference in some of the districts? Because some of the races were very close, and now Republican Jared Cram is looking at a totally different landscape starting in January, dealing with a Democrat-controlled city council.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know if my involvement, would have made a difference, but what I would have done is press to the candidates to do some of the things that I was just talking about. In other words, when you're done, when the door-to-door is finished and you're done campaigning last weekend, continuing to work right up to the last minute, to 8:30 on election night, calling voters, trying to get them out, offering to take people to the polls if need be, having teams of volunteers, not just leave door hangers on doors, which is what a lot of candidates on both sides do, but actually knock on the door and talk to the voter or voters in the household and, tell them a little bit about the candidate that you are representing. I just think the personal interaction, phoning personally, knocking doors, besides the candidate doing, but other volunteers on their behalf, I think that has an impact. I really do, especially on the local level. I mean, as you go higher up, some of this is not practical, but, the phrase all politics is local is true for everything. But when you're really at the city council level, that's absolutely.
So looking forward, what does all this mean, say, a month and a half from now for Jared Cram? I mean, obviously, it's going to be a lot different for him with his initiatives dealing with Democrats, including some new faces on city council.
Well, it is. And I think, the key is, obviously, there's going to be disagreements, no doubt. I think some of the Democrats have philosophical beliefs they strongly believe in. The mayor has his. So, I think on some areas you're going to have to agree to disagree. But the key point now is sitting where Mayor Cram is, and I think he knows this already, doesn't need to say it, but, is communication now, is reaching out to all the members, even though you might strongly disagree on some issues, but seeing where you can work together and see what parts of his agenda he can move forward. Because I'm sure there's going to be areas where they agree, and I think if you stay in constant touch with them and talk to them, and even if they vote against you, don't let that deter you from reaching out to them again. I think that's the basic way it's going to work. If you want it to work, I think that's the way it has to go.
Well, certainly this wasn't the outcome Mayor Cram expected or wanted, but do you think, as a former mayor of Binghamton, do you think that this actually could work out okay with the Republican mayor going forward the next couple of years, and then also with Democrats controlling city council? Is it potentially a good thing for Binghamton?
Well, I think it could work. I mean, I think the key is that, like anything, all the members of that ran for city council, Democrat and Republican, all pledged to represent their neighborhoods, and to do that as best they could. And I think part of that guarantee or part of that promise is that, working with the mayor whenever possible, and, maybe sometimes if there's big disagreements, maybe working to compromise. So I think people they don't expect the council members to go in there and, kind of try to brick up the mayor's office. I think everybody who voted is looking for a working relationship between the two. And I think if everybody's open to that, things can move forward. It doesn't mean you have to agree on everything, because they're not. They obviously have some different opinions, and that's fine. And people voted for that. But I think they also want to see the city continue to move forward.
Are you concerned, though, that Democrats could perhaps take an obstructionist posture and make things miserable for Mayor Cram?
Well, it's almost like at this point, it's like I hope that's not the case, and I'm waiting to see, how things start to play out at the beginning of the year, because I think, that might give us an indication of where we're going to go. So I'm cautiously optimistic that the individuals that ran, I know some of them who ran as Democrats. I had an opportunity to cross their paths at different events during the summer, and I think they all are people that believe in Binghamton and want to do a good job. So I think if they hold to that philosophy, things can work. But I mean, like I said, I don't expect the same kind of results that you would have if you would have a Republican majority. But that's where we are today, and you just got to kind of find a way. How do we move forward and make this work as best we can?
Former Binghamton Mayor Richard, I was almost going to call you Richard David, Richard Bucci. That's another, by the way, that means we also have to have Richard David on the program too. He's been busy too lately. I ran into him about a week ago. He's got a big project going on here in downtown Binghamton that he's been focused on for the last few months. So one of these days we'll have one of these days, I know people think I'm crazy to suggest this, but you remember, wasn't that long ago that you and Rich David and Matt Ryan were all here in the same studio. And a lot of people thought that would never happen. I mean, that was tied in with the anniversary of the city. But I received a lot of positive feedback from that time when the three mayors, and Rich David was mayor at the time. Heck, I wouldn't be opposed if we put in an extra microphone to have you, Rich David, Matt Ryan, and Jared Cram all in here sometime just talking about the city. Not so we can have a wild debate about issues, but the one thing I have taken away from covering the mayors over the years is that even though mayors have different worldviews and different priorities, my sense is every mayor of Binghamton has always wanted the best for the city, and that's why at some point I may throw that idea out there, as odd and crazy as it sounds, to have the current mayor along with three former mayors on the program just talking about the city. Not to start trouble, just to talk about... I'm serious. What do you think about that?
No, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think there's a sense, that when a community has, some of its former mayors still living within the community, I think that's a very positive thing. And despite the fact that we may not always agree, we still have, respect for each other for, an individual that held that position of mayor of the city of Binghamton. And so when we, it's not a situation where we see each other that, we don't talk to each other. Most of the time we interact with no problem. We talk, we compare notes about what's happened and what goes on. And so I think what you're talking about is totally within the realm of possibility.
Well, I hope it can happen. It's a fairly it's a fairly small and elite group. Only 51 people have been lucky enough to serve as mayor of our city.
That's right. So, like I said, it was 30 years ago this year that I was elected for the first time. And hard to believe it's been that long. And, it's an opportunity that I will always cherish. And it was an experience that I'll never forget.
Former Mayor Richard Bucci, thanks for being with us on WNBF. Hope you have a good day.
Thank you, Bob.
11:32 at WNBF Live Radio. The way it's just not done anymore. It is interesting. Why are we doing live radio and actually talking with current and former officials and residents and local issues? Don't they know what I'm doing? 607-772-1290. I'm Bob Joseph on Binghamton Now.
From the Galt Auto Studios, this is WNBF News Radio AM 1290. Also available at 92.1 FM. We're still saving the Southern Tier money at Galt Toyota.
Back to the phones we go. Kathy in Endicott, you're on the air.
I have a question. Did I hear correctly they're putting in a car wash where Friendlies used to be?
In Johnson City. They decided, the guy from the car wash decided that Friendly restaurant had run its course, so he thought that'd be a great place for his car wash. Splash Car Wash. No Friendly, just Splash.
I find that kind of strange because at the other, towards the west, there's a car wash right on the corner. And then towards the east, there's I think it's a self-wash car wash. I'm not sure why another car wash is necessary, but hey.
Because Johnson City has lots of cars in need of cleansing. Soon Johnson City will be noted around the universe.
Car wash city,
yeah, the car wash capital of the universe. More car washes per capita. And the other thing is, what occurs to me, with so many car washes so close together, that means competition. So at some point, there's going to be a car wash price war. So it gets down to the point where you want to get your car cleaned. And it's like, wow, it used to be, whatever, $12 or $15 or whatever with hot wax. And then and suddenly it's like $1.29 as long as you mention you heard it here. So yeah, the competition could be great. I want to see a Splash car wash.
I know. More traffic, baby. More traffic.
I don't worry about the traffic. Although what about my fribble? I don't get a fribble at the car wash. You could only get your fribble and ice cream sundaes after your meal. Maybe to make it up to us who miss Friendlies, maybe they'll give us a free sundae after every car wash.
Yeah.
Except on Sundays.
Yeah.
It could be like the chicken. How about this? They could be like that chicken sandwich company, and they do car washes only 6 days a week. Can you imagine? No car washes on Sundays. So you can have a dirty car. You have a dirty car on Sunday. Holy car. Hey, thank you for calling in.
Yep, bye.
WNBF, our news schedule, off the air on Sundays. Hey, it works for the chicken sandwich empire. 6 days a week. Ron from the West Side, you're on the air.
Hey, Bob, I'm calling about a particular media issue, but before I do, I want to say that your early part of the show, speaking about the movie Liebestraum, made me think about that. Going back, I came to Binghamton. In fact, the day I'm coming up to my 50th anniversary, because on November 29th, 1973, I started working at the Binghamton Psychiatric Center in that great big building, which was, I guess, a building for what they called inebriates at one time. And I worked in that building. It was a beautiful building, the mahogany and the woodwork, and so that was 50 years ago. So that brought back quite a memory when I began my sojourn in Binghamton, New York. I did want to bring up an issue, and it's an issue that we've touched on before, and I had a dilemma, and it was with the Binghamton Press and Sun Bulletin. I know, and we've discussed the fact that there's been a cutback of reporters and such, and so we don't get all of the Binghamton or local area news that we would like. Over the course of the last quite a few years, I sent to the press, and they were good enough to publish guest editorials that on the editorial page, and you can only send in one per month. But I was doing that, and pretty much in due course, they were printed on a variety of subjects that I thought were interesting. And apparently they liked them too, because they printed them. And then I noticed they stopped, and not only stopped, my presentations that I sent in, but there is no local editorial, guest editorials in the paper. And this has been going on now for months. I sent an email to Kevin Hogan, who was involved with, I guess, the editorial page.
Well, he's the editor. But remember, Kevin Hogan is editor now, or executive editor for several Central New York papers. So he's responsible. I'm not sure how many papers he currently is responsible for. So it's no longer one editor per paper. Okay, so you sent a note to Kevin Hogan.
Yeah, I did not get a reply. I asked simply, why aren't we getting any local opinion? I mean, you open up the Sunday paper. I mean, they cut it down to Sunday some years ago. You could only get local opinion on the editorial page on Sunday, okay? But now they've taken that away, and what they do is they plug in, as you know, they plug in editorials from people and, luminaries from Detroit or from Albany or whatever, and they're not local people, and it's not a local view. So I kind of that disturbed me, because they disappeared, and I didn't get a reply. Had no sense of what was going to happen. So I'm sad to say, but I ended my subscription with the Binghamton Press and Sun Bulletin, and I say this with the unlikely possibility, but I would take it up again if there was some turning of the corner here, making this paper somewhat more local. It's becoming less and less so. So that's what I did. I wasn't happy about that, because as you know, and as you do, you like to support local journalism.
I know, and I'm so old-fashioned. I also insist, even though they don't like it, they'd rather I have sleazy pay so they could take my money automatically as I sleep. But instead, I insist on writing a check. I just put a check in the mail for the biggest amount I've ever paid a month for that newspaper, because I also pay for print printed in Rockaway or wherever, New Jersey. But I paid again, and I do it every month. It's like a habit I can't quit, because as bad as Gannett is treating Binghamton, and I always stipulate, as badly as Gannett has treated Binghamton, Elmira, Ithaca, and all of its other small markets, I still feel a need to support local journalism. And for now, it's the only paper we have. So I support Kevin Hogan. I support the new reporter who has just started in the last few weeks. I support everybody at the local level. Ricardo is the new reporter. I had a chance to speak with him. I am offering him as much encouragement as possible because I'm glad to see people get into the business. But as far as Gannett and what the corporate people have done, it continues to disappoint me immensely. And yet I haven't stopped writing my monthly check. And it goes off, I guess, in the mail to somewhere in Cincinnati, probably where the WKRP studios used to be. I keep getting my print paper 6 days a week and keep looking for when there is local content. I support it. I support them. I hope that they'll reimagine their newspapers across the USA. If not today, maybe tomorrow.
News Radio 1290 WNBF. Going up, going up, going up, up, up. Going up, going up, going up, up, up.
The elevator operator's song, Going Up, Going Up. And you see what I did there? Mostly cloudy today, 43. Partly cloudy tonight, 27. Sunny tomorrow, 54. And Thursday, you can skip school if you want to face detention. Sunny Thursday, high 60. And right now in downtown Binghamton, it's 45. That's 5 Celsius. At News Radio WNBF. Bob Joseph with your Binghamton Now program.
WNBF.
11:52. Bob Joseph live on WNBF. Rob in Port Crane. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hi there, Bob. I was just wondering, is the Skylark Diner still open up in Vestal?
Last I knew it was, yeah.
Cool. Well, I'd like to invite Bob and Dave so we can talk about maybe having a podcast. How about tomorrow at 9 o'clock?
No. Oh, oops. WNBF. Oh, my gosh. WNBF, you're on the air. What's your first name?
Hello, Mike from Kirkwood.
All right, what's on your mind?
Well, can you guess how much the president of WSKG makes, the salary?
I don't know. 150, 200? I don't know.
No, it's more like over 700,000. Yeah.
Oh, she makes 700,000?
Over 700,000.
Oh, well then.
I came across 780,000, 720-some thousand.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Well.
So they're asking for money all the time. That's an awful lot of money to be making. What does that person do?
Yeah, I don't know if that figure is accurate. Where do you see that figure?
I just went online, WSKG.
Where? Okay, WSKG. Where I'm on the website. Where is it?
I don't know. I can't look at it now.
Well, I mean, there has to be a section on the WSKG website. What section was it in?
I think it was in their website. I think.
No, I'm looking at the website now.
Yeah.
So where do I go to find what she is paid? Because I find that figure. Let's put it this way. I have my doubts that figure you cited is accurate. So where on the website would I find this?
I believe so, because
No, I mean, where? Not you believe so. You have a figure. You said it's on the WSKG website. I'm looking at the website now. So tell me generally, what was it under?
It came under, and it gave how much the employees make, and if you want to work for WSKG, like the engineers, how much they make. Everybody.
Yeah, I just don't. But again, so I'm looking under about. There's a staff directory. I'm trying to find the area. You need to give me some specifics so I can verify what you just said on the program.
I told you I can't because I just went online. I don't remember where it was.
Oh, okay. Well, so, and I'm sorry I didn't catch what's your first name?
Mike. And
Mike from where? Kirkwood. Okay, so Mike, what I would like you to do, so this afternoon or tonight, go back on the website and then find where on the website. So when you call me tomorrow here on the program between 9 and noon, you can tell me where on the website it makes that indication that shows that the current president and CEO is being paid that much.
Okay, anybody out there listening?
Wait, I'm talking to you. It's just you and me talking because we need to nail that figure down because the figure to me doesn't sound accurate.
Right.
So, but you insist that according to the website, she's being paid more than $700,000 a year.
Yes.
Okay. All right. As I say, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying I want to see it so that Mike from Kirkwood will call in tomorrow so I can find out exactly where it is on that website. And then we can go from there. That's our program for today. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'm Bob Joseph. You're listening to News Radio, WNBF.
This is News Radio 1290 AM, WNBF Binghamton. Now on 92.1 FM, W221 EJ Binghamton, a Town Square Media.